Alright, so today I want to pull some of my brand new Ball Python hatchlings out of the incubator. I want to give them names and put them up in the hatchling rack. And I thought I'd bring you along for the ride to check out these hatchlings for the very first time. And these were actually produced by breeding two triple hets together. Triple het for albino, pied, and clown. And we actually had one visual pied, two visual albinos, and we have one normal looking snake. And what I really want to see on these, I want to see if we can actually see possibly the influence of some hets. So if you actually miss the visual, you have a 66% chance of actually hitting a het. So it's actually 66% het for the ones that aren't visuals. And sometimes you can actually see markers of the hets, usually on your clowns. If you have a het clown, pretty much every het clown that I produced here in my collection, it's always quite a bit brighter than a normal snake. Usually really brightens the snake. Sometimes with your het pieds, I'd say, sometimes it's harder with the het pieds, especially if you have like an albino het pied. I don't think you can see the het pied in there, but on that normal, it could be possible that we see some tracks on the belly of the snake, indicating that it could possibly have a strong kind of an inclination towards the het pied. Sometimes it can kind of trick you. Sometimes you can see tracks on the belly, and it doesn't really mean that you have het pied, but I'd say there's a higher likelihood that that snake would be het pied if you see some tracks on the belly. And sometimes with the het pieds, especially on the normal, sometimes it'll kind of jumble up the pattern a little bit on the side of the snake. Sometimes you can see a little bit of that in the het pied. And as far as the het albinos, I don't think there's any visual indication that you can actually check for to see if you have possibly a het albino. So I'm going to pull these hatchlings out of the incubator and let's check them out. Alright, so this is probably one of the most exciting clutches that I've ever cut in my entire career hatching ball pythons. I did not know what I was going to get, and I got pretty lucky too to be able to get such amazing snakes from, I pretty much call them my magic snakes. Take a look at those crazy snakes. Pretty awesome. Alright, so let's take a look here at what we have. It seems like these are really big, really chunky. Alright, so the first one I'm going after, of course these guys are pretty deep in shed, so they'll definitely brighten up. I wanna take a look at this pie. That's what I want to see. Take a look at that beauty. He's really deep in shed. Look at his eyes. His eyes are like super cloudy. That's pretty funny. That's almost like a perfect pied right there. The amount of white and dark over the whole thing, kind of like it goes back and forth between the light and the dark. That's pretty awesome, actually. I prefer more of a like a 50-50, and normally with your pieds you'll actually see a lot more color in the front end of the snake, and it gets kind of high white down the middle. But look, that's pretty awesome. That's an awesome kind of like a pattern right down the top of the snake, and it's white all the way, and then a little bit of color right on the tip of the tail. That's pretty awesome. Usually what I do, the first thing I do is I look for kinks. I've had two snakes with kinks this year. One retic and one Ball Python. This guy's a little bit head shy, a little bit squirrel. I think it's because he really can't see anything. His eyes are all cloudy. So it's looking good. No kinks that I see. Another thing I like to check is where the umbilical cord attaches. Normally you'll just see like a little slot where it used to be like a little slit right there. You can actually see that. That's what it should look like. Sometimes you'll see like a little kind of like a raised little red thing, and I think what I want to do is if I see any kind of an umbilical thing like afterwards, even if it's just a tiny little spot, I'm going to start spraying it down with povidone iodine diluted in water. That's a good looking snake. So this is a pied 66% het albino, so you really can't tell the het albino. 66% het clown. So when it actually hatched out, it was really super bright. It was really orange. It's kind of hard to tell now because he's going into a deep shed, but if I was a betting man, I'd say this could possibly be het for clown, just because it was a little bit brighter than I would have expected just for a straight pied. But sometimes it's a little hard to tell. Alright, so I'm going to pull a name out of the jar for this guy. I'll put him up in the hatchling rack. And if you buy a snake from me, it comes with a name. Actually, I reserve the right to reject names too. That's not really I like the gender neutral name, so if it's a male or a female. Oh, this is a good one. I guess this could be a male or female. There we go. This one's name is Hope. I hope it's het for clown and albino. So here's the hatchling rack tub that I use for my hatchlings. I think I only have 15, 16, 17 tubs left. And I have more than 17 eggs in the incubator. So I'm going to have to, actually I have some, I sold some retakes, so I have a few more in there. So maybe I have over 20, maybe like 22 or something like that. So I think I'm still going to run out of tubs, so I want to have to start posting them here pretty quick. But essentially this is what I use. These are great for hatchlings. I use the Pro Cocoa coconut husk. You can use, there's different brands of the coconut husk with the chunks like this. I buy it by the pallet, that's why I buy the Pro Cocoa. And then in the back I run a 90-degree hotspot. It's like a panel that runs in the back of the rack, just heats the back part, and I kind of pull some of the coconut husk away so they can set right on that 90-degree heat right there. And then what I'll actually do is I'll go in there like the first day or two that they're in here. Usually I don't even offer any food until they shed out for the first time. But what I'll do is I'll kind of peek in there, and if they're all bunched up in the, like on this end of the tub, I'll actually take them and put them in the back so they get used to the hot spot. Because a lot of times a hatchling like this won't know the hot spot from the back from the front, the hot from the cold, and a lot of times they'll just kind of coil up on the cold spot up here in the front. So it kind of, I think it kind of helps to you know, just check on them right away and put them back on the hot spot, and then they're like, oh yeah, that's the hot spot, and then they kind of just stay right on the heat. So then for a label, what I'll actually do is I'll print a label, put it above every tub so you know exactly what's in the tub. So what I do is I put the name at the very beginning. This guy's name is Hope. C1022, it's the 10th clutch of 2022. 10 clutches so far, pretty good. It's a pied, 66% het clown, 66% het albino. Alright, so the next one I want to look at is this normal. So this is a normal 66% het for all three, albino, pied, and clown. And normally, I would say probably about 50% of the time, if I actually have a normal that's het for pied, you'll actually see tracks on the belly. It's about, I'd say it's about a 50% chance that you'll actually see some tracks. So it's not always 100%, but let's take a look. Kind of hard to tell. Not really strong tracks. So normally what it'll be like, it'll almost look like someone took a Sharpie and drew lines on either side of the belly, especially right by the vent, right down here. So you can almost see just a little bit right here and right here, like right on the vent. But usually that's in really strong tracks, you'll actually see it come up like a lot more than that. Sometimes you'll see it come up like a third of the snake. Really super strong tracks, like someone took a Sharpie and just kind of drew right up the side of the belly on either side of the belly. And on this guy, hard to tell. Hard to tell. I say you really can't, almost barely can see a little track right there. But not really, not really. And then with your het clowns, sometimes your het clowns will be brighter. And it's hard on this one because, you know, they're going into a shed, so it's kind of tough on this one. But I don't know if this is brighter. I would say probably not. Sometimes your clowns are significantly brighter than this for a het clown. Sometimes with your het pieds, you'll see kind of like a jumbled up pattern on the side of the snake. I'm not really seeing really strong alien heads. So that could be an indication, maybe, that it's het pied. I wouldn't bet money on it though. I wouldn't bet money on het pied or het clown, and then het albino. You just don't know until you actually breed it. So in order to know for sure on this one, you'd have to breed it to like a pied, a clown, and an albino to know for sure. Alright, so then we're going to look for any kinks. Make sure the spine is straight, no defects in the spine. If they have a kink, it's like they'll have like a spot in the spine where they can't completely straighten out. I kind of like to check the eyes and the mouth. With certain genes and certain combinations, sometimes you can have genetic defects where you have like bigger eyes or smaller eyes, or like a duck bill, or like a shark tooth kind of effect. But for normals, usually you don't see anything like that. So, looking pretty good. Then I look at the navel area. Looks really good. Looks good looking snake. I don't even know if what I would even price this guy at. I guess just as a normal. It's kind of hard because something like this probably has never been produced. I don't know if anyone's ever had any of these over on Morph Market. I haven't checked, but maybe they have. I don't know. But I would say it's probably not much more than just a normal ball python, I would say. Maybe. Yeah, that's kind of the hard thing, is trying to figure out the prices on some of this stuff that's new, that you've, developed, that not many people have actually developed or produced. Alright, so here's a good name for this guy. His name is Sweetie. Alright, so we are down to just 2 albinos. So let's take a look at this. Sometimes it's actually good to kind of compare them side by side. I don't know if we'll be able to see like het pied or het clown in an albino. I don't think so. See, there's no tracks. The patterns look very similar. Oh, well, maybe. Alright, so it does look like this one is a little bit lighter than this one. Huh. If I was a guessing man, betting man, I would say this is het clown. I could almost guarantee this one's het clown. This one right here. Het pied. Sometimes the het pieds can jumble up the pattern. That's the only thing you can really look at. And I don't think, maybe, this one looks a little bit more jumbled up, almost like this one could be het pied. I think this is het pied, I think this is het clown. That's just my guess on these two. Alright, so I'll take this one that I think might be het for clown. So if you actually bred this to a clown, you might get a clown, which would be kind of interesting. So that's kind of the hard part with the hets, and then you breed it to something else you don't know, and then it's, the 66 turns into a possible, and then you have these kind of possible hets kind of floating through your collection, and you're not for sure. Wow, this guy's in such a deep pre-shed. Look at the eyes on that one. Just completely frosted. Usually with albinos you don't see that much in the eyes before a shed, which is pretty funny. Alright, so let's stretch this guy out, see how he's doing here. Hopefully no kinks or problems. He sure is all twisted up here. Alright, guy, come on out. Wow. Crazy snake. Alright, let's take a look at this one. Looks pretty good, nice and straight, at least the back end here. Let's see here. Front end's looking straight. No kinks that I can see. I kind of want to straighten them out a little bit up at the front here, just to make sure. Looking good, looking good. Look at the umbilical cord here. Alright, that's a good looking snake right there. Albino, possibly het clown on this one. I would say could possibly be het clown. We'll know better once they shed out. Usually, if you actually look at them right after they shed out and then put them side by side, a lot of times you can tell a lot. If you have multiples of the same with kind of hidden hets in the backs, and sometimes I'll actually put in the description underneath the snake over on Morph Market, kind of in the comments underneath that will say, yes, I think this is het clown, or isn't, or could possibly be something else. So, alright, so this guy's name, good name for this guy, his name is Yuki. Alright, so we have one more snake in here, a lone albino. Let's take a look at this guy. Alright, it was a 4-egg clutch, and we got 4 snakes out of it. I was actually hoping for the triple visual. Didn't hit the triple visual, but we got some interesting hatchlings here. Alright, so let's take a look at this guy. Kind of uncoil him here. So, this guy's looking good. First thing I do, look for any weird kinks or anything. Looks good. Nothing weird going on with this guy. Umbilical cord looks good. Or I guess you would call it the belly button where the umbilical cord used to be. Alright, that's a good looking snake. So that's an albino. It's kind of interesting if you look at the pattern on the side right here. Look at how wiped out the pattern is, especially like right at the end, how it kind of is wiped out here. It's pretty wild. I would say this one has a good chance of being het for pied on this one. Sometimes it's hard to tell, especially on these albinos. That looks good. No problem there. Alright, good looking albino. Alright, let's pull a name for the last guy here. It's always fun looking at the new snakes for the very first time. This is actually my dog's name. I don't know how this name got in here. Alright, the name for this guy is Nala. Alright, so there you go. Those are my results from breeding 2 triple hets together. Pretty exciting. I actually have 4 females, so hopefully next year we'll actually hit a couple more clutches of some of these triple hets. And I'm hoping for, you know, some like albino pieds or clown pieds or albino clowns or something really cool like that. Hoping for of course, the triple visual. If I get one of those, I'll be definitely holding that one back. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.